For most of my marriage, I thought I knew my husband. I thought I knew what kind of man he was. A hard-working provider, a loving father, a man who sometimes lost his temper, but always came back to apologize. But the truth? The truth shattered everything I believed about him the day he left our 6-year-old son alone on the side of a road. This is the story of how that moment changed my life, and how I fought to protect my son from the man who was supposed to love him most. My husband, Mark, had always been a little strict. He believed in tough love. Rules, routines, discipline, those were his comfort zones. When Toby was born, Mark softened, at least for a while. He was attentive, playful, even tender. But somewhere along the way, that warmth faded. Maybe it started when Mark lost his job. He'd been laid off from his position at an accounting firm after nearly 10 years. He told me it wasn't personal. Corporate restructuring, he called it. But I could see how deeply it wounded him. He stopped smiling as much, stopped joking around with Toby. Instead, he began to overcompensate. He wanted control of everything. At first, it seemed harmless. He started doing more around the house, picking Toby up from school, planning weekend activities. I thought, maybe this will be good. Maybe he just needs to feel useful again. But it didn't take long for the cracks to show. Mark's new version of parenting didn't look like love. It looked like shouting over spilled milk. It looked like timeouts that lasted for an hour. It looked like Toby flinching when Mark raised his hand, even if it was just to reach for a cup. I tried to reason with him. "Mark, he's 6, he's still learning." Mark would scoff. "You're too soft on him, he needs to understand consequences." I hated that word, consequences. Because in Mark's world, consequences didn't mean teaching or guiding. They meant fear. Still, I wanted to believe he was just stressed, that once he found work again, he'd calm down, so I told myself it would pass. It was supposed to be a normal Saturday. Mark had suggested taking Toby to the trampoline park, a rare treat. "Just us boys," he said with a grin. "You can have the day to yourself." I hesitated. Part of me wanted to go too, but Toby looked so excited that I didn't want to ruin it. So I smiled and said, "Have fun, be safe." A few hours later, I got a text from Mark. "Heading home soon, Toby's being a brat." I frowned. A brat? That wasn't like Toby. He was sensitive, shy, the kind of kid who apologized if he accidentally stepped on a bug. I texted back, "What happened?" No reply. Then an hour passed, 2. Finally, Mark called. His tone was calm, too calm. "He's fine. I just had to teach him a lesson." Something in his voice made my stomach drop. "What do you mean? Where are you?" "Relax. He's okay. I just pulled over for a bit to let him think." I could hear wind through the phone. My heart started pounding. "Mark, where is Toby?" He sighed. I left him on the side of the road for a few minutes. He wouldn't stop crying. He needs to learn that tantrums don't get him anywhere. I froze. "You what? Mark, where?" He hung up. I didn't think. I just moved. I grabbed my keys, threw on a jacket, and dialed 911 as I ran to the car. My voice shook as I told the dispatcher what happened, where they'd been going, what kind of car Mark drove, what my son was wearing. The dispatcher's voice stayed steady. "Stay on the line, ma'am. We have officers in the area." Every second felt like a lifetime. The image of Toby standing on the side of the road, alone, scared, burned in my mind. After 10 excruciating minutes, the dispatcher said, "Ma'am, your son's been located. He's safe. Officers are with him now." I pulled over and sobbed. When I arrived, Toby was sitting with a female officer, wrapped in a blanket. His face was streaked with tears and dirt, but when he saw me, he ran into my arms. "Mummy," he whispered, trembling. "I thought you weren't coming." I held him so tight I could barely breathe. "I'll always come for you," I said. "Always." The officer gently pulled me aside. "Your husband claims it was just a disciplinary tactic, but we've documented everything." "Ah. You can press charges if you'd like." I looked at Toby, his small hands clutching the blanket, his eyes wide with confusion, and something inside me hardened. "Yes," I said, "I'd like to file a report." Mark was furious when he found out. He called me, shouting into the phone, "You're overreacting! I was only gone for 5 minutes! He needs to toughen up!" I didn't respond. For the first time, I wasn't afraid of him. Because I finally saw him for what he was, not a father trying to teach a lesson, but a man who had lost control and called it parenting. When he came home that night, I didn't let him in. The police had already advised me to file for a temporary restraining order, and I did. Mark screamed from the porch for nearly 20 minutes before the neighbors called the cops again. That was the night Toby and I slept with the doors locked and a chair wedged under the handle. The next few weeks were a blur of court dates, statements, and paperwork. Mark tried to twist everything, insisting he never intended harm. His lawyer claimed it was a misunderstanding, that Mark had only pulled over briefly and that Toby was never in real danger. But the body cam footage from the responding officers told a different story. Toby had been found crying near a wooded area, a good quarter-mile from where Mark's car was later located. He had been there for nearly 20 minutes. The judge didn't take it lightly. Mark was charged with child endangerment and given a restraining order. I was granted full custody of Toby. For the first time in months, I felt safe, but that safety came with guilt. Guilt that I hadn't seen the signs sooner. Toby had nightmares for weeks. He'd wake up screaming, convinced that I'd left him too. I'd hold him until he calmed down, whispering, "You're safe, baby. Mummy's here." He didn't want to go anywhere without me. Not to school, not to his grandparents, not even down the hall. The trauma ran deep, and every time I looked at him, I saw the little boy standing alone on the side of the road, wondering why his dad had left him. We started therapy, both of us. At first, Toby wouldn't talk. He'd just draw. But over time, his drawings changed. At first, they were dark, a car driving away, a little boy crying. Then slowly there were more colors, a house, a garden, me, him, smiling. That's when I knew we were healing. Just when things started to feel normal again, Mark's family stepped in. His mother called me one night, furious. "You ruined his life. He was trying to teach Toby responsibility." I hung up. Then his sister started posting on Facebook, long rants about how I'd alienated Mark and turned their nephew against his father. I ignored it at first, but then they started showing up. His brother came to Toby's school, trying to talk to him. The staff immediately called me and the police. The restraining order was extended to include Mark's family. It felt like living under siege, but I wasn't backing down. Because I had something far stronger than fear now, purpose. Months later, I got a letter in the mail. It was from Mark. The handwriting was shaky, but unmistakably his. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt him. I didn't know what else to do. I miss my family. For a moment, I almost felt pity. Almost. But then I remembered the fear in Toby's eyes, the sound of his little voice whispering, "I thought you weren't coming." I tore up the letter and threw it away. Some people don't deserve a second chance. A year later, Toby and I moved to a new town, a quiet neighborhood near the coast. Nothing fancy, but peaceful. Toby started school again. He made a new friend named Liam, and for the first time in a long time, I saw him laugh. Really laugh. His therapist said he was doing better, still cautious, still jumpy at times, but stronger. As for me, I went back to work part-time, balancing motherhood with recovery. Some nights I'd sit on the porch after Toby went to bed and let the ocean air wash over me. I'd think about that day, the road, the fear, the sirens, and I'd realize how close I'd come to losing everything. But we survived. And survival, I've learned, is its own kind of victory. 2 years after the incident, Mark tried to reach out again. He sent a request through his lawyer for supervised visitation. My heart sank when I got the notice. Toby had just turned 8. He was happy, thriving, starting to forget the nightmares. I didn't want to reopen those wounds. But the court required a hearing. When the day came, I walked into that courtroom with my head held high. Mark looked smaller somehow. His hair grayer, his face thinner. He wouldn't meet my eyes. His lawyer argued that he had completed anger management and wanted to rebuild a relationship with his son. My attorney presented the therapist's report, detailing the trauma Toby had suffered, the lingering anxiety, and his repeated insistence that he didn't want to see his father. When the judge asked me if I had anything to say, I stood. I looked at Mark and said, "You left a child, your child, alone on the side of the road to make a point." That moment broke something in him that no amount of therapy can fully fix. He deserves peace. He deserves safety. And you've proven you can't give him that. The courtroom was silent. The judge denied the visitation request. And just like that, it was over. Toby's 9 now. He still asks questions sometimes about his dad, about what happened. I don't lie to him, but I don't poison him with bitterness either. I tell him, "Your dad made choices that hurt us, but we're safe now." And that's what matters. He nods, thoughtful beyond his years. Sometimes I catch him looking out the car window when we drive, quiet, maybe remembering. But then he smiles and says, "Can we get ice cream?" And that's how I know we're okay. There's something no one tells you about protecting your child. It changes you. You become sharper, stronger, and somehow softer all at once. I used to think being a good mother meant keeping the family together. Now I know it means protecting your child, even if that means tearing the family apart. Mark used to say, "Discipline is love," but real love, the kind that saves you, is gentle, patient, and safe. It doesn't leave a child crying on the side of the road. It pulls over, opens the door, and says, "It's okay, I'm here." And that's exactly what I'll keep doing for the rest of my life.